So, this happened to me a few months ago, and to this day I still get chills just thinking about it. I used to work the night shift at Walmart. It was the kind of job I liked. Quiet, no customers, just me stocking shelves and keeping to myself. But one particular night, something happened that I can't explain, and I don't think I ever will. It was around 1 a.m., and I was working in the electronics section, the store utterly silent. There's a certain calm that comes with being the only one around in a huge, empty building. Or at least I used to think so. The quietness felt different that night, almost suffocating. My footsteps echoed with every movement, and the fluorescent lights overhead seemed to hum a little louder than usual. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I was going about my routine when I glanced at the security camera monitor. Most of the cameras showed the same thing. Empty aisles, undisturbed shelves. But one camera, the one covering the toy aisle, kept flickering in and out of static. At first, I figured it was a glitch. Things like that happen all the time with old equipment. But then it started happening more frequently, and I swear I could see something between the flickers, just a blur of motion, too quick to focus on. I tried to ignore it and keep working, but the screen kept pulling my eyes back. Each time the static cleared, I thought I saw a figure. It was always in the same spot, but never clear enough to make out what it was. I told myself it was just my mind playing tricks, the late hour getting to me, but I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling creeping up my spine. I called my supervisor, half expecting him to think I was crazy, but he brushed it off. "It's just a technical issue," he said. "Nothing to worry about." But there was something in his voice that felt off, like he wasn't telling me everything. I hung up, but I couldn't leave it alone. I had to check it out. I walked towards the toy aisle. The sound of my footsteps seemed too loud in the otherwise dead silence. As I approached, a strange heaviness settled in my chest. The aisle was deserted, just like I thought it would be. Shelves lined with stuffed animals, action figures, and dolls, all neatly in place. But then I heard it, a giggle. It was soft, almost playful, like the laughter of a child. But there shouldn't have been anyone there. The sound sent a shiver down my spine. I stopped dead in my tracks, listening intently. The giggle came again, this time slightly louder, more deliberate, as if teasing me. My heart started to race. I scanned the aisle again, and that's when I noticed something that hadn't been there before. A small doll lying in the middle of the floor. It was one of those porcelain dolls, the kind with glassy eyes that seem to follow you wherever you go. Its dress was tattered, old-fashioned, and it had a painted-on smile that seemed far too wide. The doll hadn't been there earlier. I would have seen it. I bent down to pick it up, but the moment my fingers touched its cold surface, the lights overhead started flickering violently. The entire aisle plunged into darkness for a split second, and when the lights flickered back on, the doll was gone. I stumbled back, my breath caught in my throat. My rational mind was scrambling for an explanation. Maybe the lights just shorted out, maybe someone was playing a prank. But deep down, I knew none of that made sense. My pulse was hammering in my ears as I stood there, frozen. Then I saw him. At the far end of the aisle, just standing there, was a man, or at least something shaped like a man. He was tall, unnaturally so. His skin sickly pale and stretched tight over his face. He wore dark clothes, but they seemed off, like they didn't quite belong to this time. And his eyes were hollow, empty, like deep, endless pits. He didn't move. He just stood there, staring at me with those soulless eyes, and I could feel the weight of his gaze, heavy and suffocating. My body went cold. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. All I could do was stare back, my legs rooted to the ground as if they'd forgotten how to work. The lights flickered again, and this time when they came back on, he was gone. But the feeling of being watched didn't leave. It clung to me, wrapping around me like a shadow, pressing down on my chest. I turned to leave, trying to shake off the terror clawing at my insides, but I barely made it 2 steps before I heard that giggle again. Closer this time, and unmistakably directed at me. I didn't look back. Couldn't. I bolted out of that aisle, sprinted through the store, and didn't stop until I was outside, gasping for air under the harsh glow of the parking lot lights. My heart was pounding, and my hands were shaking so badly that it took me 3 tries to get my car door unlocked. I quit my job the next day. No explanation, no 2 weeks' notice. I just walked in, handed over my badge, and left. There was no way I was ever stepping foot in that store again. Even now, months later, I still can't shake the feeling that whatever was in that store that night, it's not finished with me. Sometimes, late at night when everything is quiet, I hear that same faint giggle in the back of my mind, and I feel that same cold dread creeping up my spine. I don't know what I saw that night, and I don't think I ever will. But if you ever find yourself working a night shift at a place like Walmart, be careful. There are things in the dark that we're not supposed to see. And once you do, they might not ever let you go.